Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zhishan. I'm assistant professor in the ECE department of University of Central Florida. Today, I'm going to talk about a joint work on intertask cache interference aware partition real-time scheduling done by me, my colleagues, Professor Fan Yao and Amro Awad, and also Professor Kecheng from Texas State University. So first, we consider a multi-core real-time embedded system platform where the cache is shared on all levels. And of course, as we know that when there is shared cache, contentions will occur between the tasks, especially when they preempt each other. So for this cache access, it will increase the part of the worst case execution time of the tasks, or we call it code, are actually code to be run on the platforms, such that it may become not schedulable. For example, here, if task 1 and task 2 are scheduled in the correct order, priority order, then task 1 will finish execution before the deadline, and task 2 will suffer from a little bit cache interference, but still can meet the deadline. However, if somehow we start execution task 2 first, then both task 1 and task 2 will have to pay the cache contention. This increased execution time will lead to deadline miss that's caused by cache interference. So there are existing solutions that handle such problems. On one hand, we have global scheduling, where tasks can migrate from one processor to another during its execution. So this is, in general, lead to more unpredictable real-time behaviors. And even without considering cache interference, it becomes quite difficult to bound the worst-case execution time in many scenarios. So here in this paper, we focus on partition scheduling, where the task to core mapping are fixed. So basically, a task will release infinite number of jobs to be run in a periodic or sporadic manner. And once the first job of a task is assigned a certain processor, then all its following jobs that are released by the same task will have to be executed on this same processor, and no migration on the task level is allowed. And furthermore, we consider that cache is already partitioned, because if cache is fully shared between processors, then different tasks, even running on different processors, may have interference on the cache level. So what we consider here is that we will partition the cache into the processors prior to runtime according to the task's behaviors and features. And then the tasks that are assigned on the same processor will share the cache that is allocated onto the certain processor. So again, what we do is we partition the tasks to processors, and the mapping becomes fixed prior to runtime. And what furthermore is we partition the cache to processors as well. This can be a very complicated optimization problem, and there are existing work done in terms of how cache should be partitioned, like what's the size of the cache that we should allocate to each processor. This is not the focus of this paper. And what we consider is that cache is already partitioned and dedicated to each processor. Then we kind of reduce the problem from multi-core processor scheduling with shared cache into uniprocessor scheduling problems with tasks assigned to each processor. And then we know that on each processor, tasks will have interference with each other. But if tasks are assigned different processors, then they may not they will not have access to the same cache partition. That's such that there won't be any cache interference. So here we consider a set of n tasks, and each task has two execution time patterns. One is the plain worst case execution time, and one is the effective one. This one includes all the cache interferences that are according to certain partition. So this is not given. This will be calculated. And then, of course, tasks are given with minimum interseparation arrival pattern, which is often denoted as period. And we consider implicit deadline tasks, meaning that their relative deadlines are the same as their periods. So this plain execution time excludes the cache-related interference, while the effective one will include those. And we consider homogeneous multiprocessor, meaning that all the cores are the same. Okay. And on the system level, for the cache and the memory model, we consider only direct mapping cache here, such that each cache contains multiple sets, and each set has exactly one cache line. The cache block evictions are deterministic because this set has only one cache line, such that the overall interferences between any pair of tasks can be bounded. Okay, because we know that if a pair of tasks are assigned on different processors, then they will not have any cache interference. If the two tasks are assigned on the same processor, then they may preempt each other, and there may be cache interference. But because of this direct mapping and one cache line per setting, we can bound the interference in a pairwise manner. And of course, off-chip memory is assumed to be sufficient to hold the entire workload. So we don't consider any memory replacement, any cost, any additional execution cost on the memory level. Okay, so here is a new concept that we proposed in this paper, which is called the intertask interference matrix. So the intuition behind this is that during the task partitioning process, finding which tasks to assign to which processor, if a task pair has a strong interference, then we should try to isolate them, try to partition them onto two different processors, such that we can reduce their overhead, that leading to smaller effective worst case execution time. So in this way, in general, we can improve the performance and resource efficiency of the whole platform. So in general, we construct this matrix that for each pair of tasks, we consider that when one task is preempting the other, and here we, as a side note, we know that tasks with smaller period can preempt tasks with larger period, well, not the other way around. So if a task has a large period, then a small one, then it can never preempt the small one, no matter whether you are doing fixed priority or EDF. Because in order for a preemption to happen, you have to release after a certain job and have a deadline that's before a certain job. With the implicit deadline setting, that means the preempting job will always have a smaller period. So here, we order all the tasks by their period with the index. So index I is smaller than index j. That means I can preempt j. J can never preempt I, no matter whether you are doing partition EDF or partition fixed priority. If you're not convinced, then you can look at the lemma that in the paper that we gave a proof sketch there. So here, with task j, if it is assigned partition together with task I, then potentially it may get cache interference because of I's preempting j. And this becomes the additional workload that we are calculating here. So just one second. Let me see if I can. Okay, so I hope you can see my mouse. That here is the additional workload. And of course, we divide it by the period so that this becomes a utilization additional utilization that could be effectively reduced if we choose to partition these two tasks, I and J, onto two different processors. So given the intertask interference matrix, our problem becomes that we want to find a good or even an optimal task partition, meaning a task to core or to processor mapping, such that the real-time correctness first is satisfied on each of the cores. Okay, so here P is for each processor, and the capitalized P function means what is assignment. So that is our decision variable. Okay, so if Pi equals to small p, that means task I is assigned to processor small p. Okay, so here the first part is the system utilization. Okay, so and that's the normal part that we cannot reduce. That is excluding the cache interference overhead. And then the second part is whenever two tasks are partitioned on the same processor, then we have to include the additional overhead due to the cache interference that they may preempt each other. Okay? And we want to find a partition such that the total utilization of the system is smaller than a given beta. Of course, here, beta can be 1 if you are doing partition EDF. If you are doing partition fixed priority like rate monotonic, then beta should take the value of log 2, which is about 0.69. Okay, it depends on what scheduler you choose to use after the partition. Okay, on each uniprocessor system. So in general, this is of course, a discrete optimization problem, and we first identify an exact solution, which is a mixed integer linear programming formulation, okay? MILP. So basically, we want to minimize Z, which is the maximum utilization of each processor. Okay, as you can see here, this is the utilization of each processor. It is upper bounded by Z. And then for all the remaining constraints, let's go through them set by set. The first two ones are very simple, actually. They are just constraining that each task can be mapped to just one and only one processor. Okay. And then the second set is actually constraining the cache interferences between tasks in a core. So why are the interferences of ij on processor T? And we have to make sure that this is constrained. And of course, the third one is the utilization constraint, that each processor, the total utilization must be bounded. And we want to minimize this Z. Let's say if Z is above 1, then we know that there's no feasible solution. There will be some core with a utilization greater than 1, right? But if Z is smaller than 1, then we know, or smaller than equal to 1, then we know EDF is fine. If it's smaller than 0.68 something, log 2, then we know even rate monotonic will be fine. So we are trying to minimize the Z here, such that on each core, the utilization will be kept as low as possible. Okay. So although this mixed integer linear programming yields an optimal solution, but as we know that computational complexity is very high for this type of optimization formulations typically. Therefore, we use this as one of the kind of the baseline. It's like an upper bound that it's optimal. No one can be better than that. But then we want to see whether we can do near optimal approaches and how good can they be. If they can approximate this MILP very well in a very efficient manner, then we know that that may be a very good solution in general. Okay, so here I will describe a few approximate solutions that are proposed in this paper as well. The first one is the graph K-cut based partition. So basically what we do here is we transformed the original task to core mapping problem into a graph cutting problem. So if you think about this, right? So originally we have all the tasks, and these tasks has their own utilization, which are the we represent as the vertices or nodes of the graph. And then the interferences, the pairwise interferences between tasks can be represented as edges of the graph with certain weights. Then when doing the mapping from tasks to processors, it's the same as we are doing cuts to the graph. So basically, we want to cut this whole graph into k parts, where k is the number of processors, okay, into k subsets, such that if an edge is, if the two vertices of an edge lies on two different subsets of the graph, then we can get rid of such interference between these two tasks. And so basically, we want to make sure that what we find is a good cutting mechanism such that each subset, the total weight of the edges and the total weight of the nodes are, the summation of these are minimized. Okay, and what we identified is there is a very nice, very simple swapping-based algorithm that can find a suboptimal solutions, even optimal solutions with very high probability to perform the k-cut optimization problem. So here, I'll briefly introduce how this algorithm do. So consider where we have this task set mapped to the graph. Okay, so with 4 tasks where we have 4 vertices and then all the edges. At the beginning, we just perform a random cut. Let's say we have 2 processors. We randomly cut. Okay, let's say we cut here. So with tau 1, tau 3 on one core and tau 2, tau 4 on the other core. Then we consider any 2 vertices. Okay, we pick anyone here. Let's say we pick tau 1 here and we pick tau 4 here. And we ask if we swap these 2 from, so basically tau 1 moves to the right, tau 4 moves to the left. Then can it be better? Sometimes we may pick tau 1 with nothing here. So basically tau 1 will move to the right and nobody moves to the left. So in this way, basically we are conducting a random walk from a random initial beginning of the partition. And as this walk doing, we will try to find better solutions. So this is the first approximation solution that we have. And existing work has shown that this algorithm has a very good property as far as we keep swapping. Whenever we can find better swaps that can lead to even lower per task utilization, then we keep continuing the swapping process until we cannot find any swap that leads to better. So this is one of the strategies. But the problem is, as we know, that although it's very likely that it will find a good solution, it can still stuck in a local minimum. So what we further explore is the genetic algorithm. Okay, this, if you're familiar with, you know that this is a well-known heuristic search algorithm for complicated optimization problems. And because of its general setting that it is population-based, it will view multiple solutions at the same time, such that it has much larger chance of escaping from the local minimum during the search. So basically, I will not jump into the details, but a little highlight of how we translate or transform the original problem into a genetic algorithm formulation is the task to core combination is, or task to core mapping, which is our decision variable, is the chromosome. Okay, in the genetic algorithm. And then the current maximum per core utilization becomes a fitness function that we want to minimize this. And then at the beginning, we of course will do a random assignment, random partition. That is the initialization. So what genetic algorithm do is it will take multiple chromosomes. Okay, so basically we have, let's say, 1,000 different partitions. We evaluate them, and then we only take the good ones. Let's say we take 500 good solutions, and then we get rid of the 500 bad solutions with high fitness function. And then we ask them to cross over and mutation. So basically, we will generate a next generation of presumably even better solutions, even better chromosomes or task or mapping schemes with the existing solutions that are chosen based on the fitness function. So this is like the evolution in a real world for life, right? If we only pick the good ones, the best ones, when we are planting, doing farming, then in every round, every generation, we only keep the better ones and the seed of the best ones. Then things will get better and better. So this is genetic algorithm is similar. At the beginning, we may not find very good partition solution, but with relatively good partition solutions, if we cross over them, mix them, and then give some mutation probability with a few iterations, it will presumably, on a very high chance, search for a good task to core mapping that leads to very low fitness function. Okay, so this is the genetic algorithm. I will not go into the details, but we do have pseudocode that are clearly written in the paper that you can take a look if you are interested. So the last part, I will briefly report the experimental evaluation that we did. So first, we generate the workload based on existing well-known Maladen WSET benchmark. And here, because of we need to run the mixed integer linear programming, we cannot afford to have a too large setting of the problem. So we take 4 cores and 10 tasks in total to be partitioned on the 4 cores. The plain WSET worst case execution time and the effective worst case execution time are measured by averaging 100 iterations for each task or each combination. So with 10 tasks, that's already more than 5,000 runs of all the combinations to get a relatively precise plain worst case execution time and effective worst case execution time. And then we randomly generate the task periods with the new UniFast algorithm that is widely adapted in simulation experiments for the real-time systems community. And what we consider as some baseline approach, one of the baseline approach we did is the worst fit first heuristic. Okay, and here are the results. Okay, so the first fit is a greedy approach. It may be too light, but I hope you can see that the green one. Okay, it drops early. So what happens here to read this figure is on the x-axis we have the overall plane utilization. On the y-axis is the ratio of all the randomly generated task sets, how many are schedulable, that we are able to find a good partition EDF schedulability analysis. Basically, the per task utilization has to be, maximum per task utilization has to be smaller than or equal to 1. Then we declare victory. Can we find such partition? For example, here, if you look at the node, the point here, this one means that about 92% of the task sets under this system utilization is are schedulable using the mixed integer linear program, while K-cut can schedule about 85%. And the genetic algorithm is a little lower, which is 69%, but still its performance is better than the greedy approach. So here, I'm just showing the partitioned EDF, where we have these the task utilization or core utilization bound to be 1, and the preemptive rate monotonic, where the bound is 0.68 something, so log 2. Okay, so of course with rate monotonic, the schedulability is lower, as you can see, and with EDF, it's better. Even with high utilization, we can still find a good partition. But the trends are the same for both schedulers, as you can see. Of course, mixed integer linear programming, they perform the best as they are optimal. And then the good thing that we find is this K-cut approach actually are quite effective. Like, it's very efficient, and its performance is in general better than the genetic algorithm and very close to the mixed integer linear programming. So we kind of claim that K-cut is a very nice approach in general. And of course, we have genetic algorithm that's still better than just doing a greedy worst fit first partition assignment. Okay, so to conclude, what we did in this paper is we propose a concept of inter-task interference matrix to represent the cache interference in a pairwise manner. Remember that this is a worst case cache interference on real-time system. And we formulate a mixed integer linear programming to find the optimal solution, and also to make it more practical and scalable, we proposed 2 polynomial time approaches. One is genetic algorithm, one is the graph K-cut approach. And they can transform the existing problem into certain form and find very efficient and close to optimal solutions in general. All right, thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed the talk. Glad we don't have the chance to ask questions, but in case you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and I'd be happy to handle them. Thank you.